Thank you very much, PCS Musalia. Please be seated. Excellencies and colleagues, I want to be a bit unorthodox and start with the last issue that the PCS has raised here so that we make a decision. It is important for a forum as this to incorporate the Houses of Parliament, because many of the things that we discuss here have a bearing on the work of Parliament. I would propose that for the DPF, if it is possible, to incorporate the clerks of the two Houses of Parliament as ex officio or some form of involvement in the DPF, and within the joint sector working groups, the chairpersons of committees, sector committees, water and energy and so forth, participate at that level. I propose that if we did that, we will also, and maybe because this is something I'm just thinking as I stand here, for the DPF, we can have the two clerks and the two leaders of majority, because they're the ones who move legislative business in the two houses. And then for the sector work, as the joint sector working groups, we can have the chairpersons of the departmental committees. Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea? Will as many of that opinion say aye? Anybody with a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Number two, I assume for DPF, we have incorporated the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. Because if we haven't, I also think it is important on behalf of the judiciary, which is an independent arm of government, but which depends on SJEC. Oh, she's here. Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we are all aligned. Thank you very much, CRJ. Thank you. So I think if we do that, we are okay, because the county governments are here, the national government is here, and the development partners are here. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I will not repeat. The protocols have been established. And let me just mention, for the purposes of Dr. Stephen Jackson, that we might have to do another DPF before you leave. So don't say a lot of queries yet. We might have another one soon, for the reason which I am going to propose in a short while. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, His Excellency the President has clarified that the government of Kenya intends, going forward, to recalibrate our national development agenda in a manner that helps us achieve Kenya's transformation into a first world economy within one generation. We are persuaded beyond doubt that if other countries elsewhere have done it, Kenya has what it takes to do it as well. And therefore, you have noticed in the recent past, both in the State of the Nation address that His Excellency the President gave on November 20 last year, as well as the end of year speech, it is now clear that our next vision is a vision to transform Kenya into a first world economy within a generation. South Korea did it, Malaysia did it, Singapore did it. There is no reason whatsoever why Kenya cannot do it. The paradigm to take us there, as you're aware, is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. I'm saying this deliberately because I have seen discussions around whether we have abandoned the bottom-up economic transformation agenda for something else. We have not. We have clarified that we want Kenya to move into first world economic status within one generation, and the paradigm that will take us there is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The drivers that will take us there are people, partnerships, and technology. And that's why the people are at the center of our development planning and development programs. We also believe technology is going to play a great role in this transformation. And thirdly, we believe that partnerships are going to play a crucial role in Kenya's transformation, for the simple fact that as the world is realizing public sector resources are not enough for the kind of needs that our nations have. And therefore, we will leverage on private sector partnerships with the public sector to get adequate resources to achieve our objectives. Again, paraphrasing the State of the Nation's address by His Excellency the President, the pillars on which this vision is anchored is number one, agriculture and water. Because we have realized agriculture carries so many people across the nation, and it is one sector which can help us lift in the shortest time possible millions of Kenyans from poverty. The statistics that are prevailing now indicate that about 20 million Kenyans live in poverty, and that number is worrying. We must reduce that number. We target reducing that number by 10 million every 10 years, and it is possible. So pillar number one is agriculture. And for us to be able to use agriculture as a tool for transforming our economy and lifting our people from poverty and creating jobs, we must move from depending on precipitation to feed the people of Kenya and to create jobs using agriculture. We are aware that there are countries which do not receive any precipitation, and you'll not hear the kind of things that we discuss here every so often about drought and famine. Therefore, water harvesting is important. That is why we are embarking on a serious water harvesting and storage program to build 50 mega dams, 200 mid-sized dams, and about 1,000 mini dams across Kenya to harvest and store water for irrigation and put an additional 2.5 million acres of land under irrigation. That way, you make agriculture reliable, you strengthen food production, you reduce the amount of foreign exchange we use to import food, you secure the country's food security situation, and you create millions of jobs. And the entire ecosystem between the farming itself, whether crop farming or livestock farming, and the value addition and agro-processing, that ecosystem creates enough jobs to lift quite a number of people currently living in poverty into a more prosperous economic situation. Number two, we believe this transformation is going to be anchored on a serious upgrade of our infrastructure, especially roads, airports, seaports, and railways. And that is why we have developed some ways of hastening the construction of more roads, upgrading of more roads, including dual carriageways, through PPPs and other innovative ways. Because if we go at the pace we are going, we will not reach where we want to reach in the speed and the time where, which we are looking at. Therefore, we have a very ambitious program to expand the road networks in Kenya, to elongate the railway from where it is in Naivasha into the border with Uganda, to modernize our main seaports in Mombasa and our second port in Lamu, and also to put up a new international airport in Nairobi. And all that should happen in the shortest time possible. We have looked at all the challenges and the risks, and we have a way of making sure that it happens without any delay, without any excuses going forward. Other than agriculture and water as pillar number one, and infrastructure, and by infrastructure, we are talking about roads, seaports, railways, and our airports. We believe those ones will stimulate, first of all, in quite a number of jobs, because public infrastructure activity creates jobs and also stimulates industry and manufacturing because of what goes into building those infrastructure projects. Other than that, energy, which Sebastian has raised, is critical. We have determined we need an additional 7,000 megawatts of electricity to bring into a total of 10,000 megawatts to be able to sustain not only the current situation, but an expanded industrial base for our transformation. Those are the three pillars: energy, infrastructure, and agriculture and water. To fund this very ambitious program, we have established two funds, and I think that we are at the tail end of finalizing the legislative framework for that. One is the Sovereign Wealth Fund, where money obtained from our extractive industry is put for purposes of securing the nation against shocks, including climate change shocks and other external economic shocks that can disrupt us, pandemics, and other things that come and destabilize our otherwise very resilient economy. We have determined that going forward, if we continue relying on tourism and services, as much as there are good sectors for growth and drivers of growth, external shocks can disrupt us, as we saw during the COVID period. And therefore, the Sovereign Wealth Fund will be used purposely for cushioning the country from such shocks, but also at the same time investing in long-term infrastructure which can bring returns, and therefore we sustain that fund for posterity. As we exploit our minerals, we don't want future generations to ask us, or to ask in our absence when we are gone, what the money and the proceeds that we got from our minerals and oil was used to do. Other than the Sovereign Wealth Fund, we are creating where we want to raise resources, mainly through capital markets, privatization, and also raising funds through public-private partnerships. So we believe the National Infrastructure Fund and the sovereign wealth to do what we want to do. Of course, we'll continue developing, depending on development partners for overseas development assistance, but we are prepared in the meantime to raise enough resources locally to be able to meet our development imperatives. Therefore, it's also important for me to say that we have also thought through about the enablers for this transformation. As we look at putting up new infrastructure, generating more energy, as we look also at transforming our agricultural sector and creating jobs and value addition and manufacturing, we're also looking at the software that will drive this transformation. And we have determined national security is going to be one of those drivers. Unless we have a predictable stability, long-term stability in the country, what we aspire to do, including the infrastructure we are putting in place, can be destroyed because of lawlessness, disorder, unrest. And therefore, our national security becomes one, if not the first enabler, which we must make sure that we support our security agencies to make sure our country remains stable and safe in the long term. And that's why we are investing in the police modernization program, carrying out reforms in terms of career progression and other areas in our security, police and other security agencies. Other than security, we believe that the second enabler for this transformation is going to be working on promoting national values, integrity being at the center of those national values, and therefore the fight against corruption, theft of public funds, and all the negative things that our Constitution frowns upon in Article 10 are important enablers for this transformation. We want to promote, through our various interventions, including using the education system going forward, a society that is based on integrity, patriotism, and also respect for the rule of law, justice, equality, national unity, and so on and so on. Because unless we instill these values in ourselves and in our younger generations, this transformation will falter. So enabler number one is security. Enabler number two is national values. And the fight against corruption is at the center of that enabler. Lastly, the last enabler is on human capital development. And that's why we are investing in fine-tuning our education system so that it can generate employable young people, entrepreneurs, and other people who can fit into an ever-changing world where technology, research is the driver for transformation. And therefore, we want to ensure that we have the human capital that will help us achieve the transformation we are looking at. Within this generation, we have increased the money for research from 0.8% to 2% of GDP to make sure that we put our money where our mouth is. And we are also very keen on creating jobs, because this human capital we are talking about, we must find them jobs, we must find them opportunities in business so that they can help us drive the transformation of our country. I have taken a bit of time to provide that background so that as we continue with our DPF discussions, then we are aligned with that national vision and national priorities. Therefore, today's DPF has two things I expect us to make progress on. Number one, we have been discussing about making the joint sector working groups more effective. I know there has been some work to revise the terms of reference for the joint sector working groups. As I sit here, I would like to hear where we are on that one. If we are not making good progress, we make decisions on what else we need to do to strengthen the outputs and efficiency of the joint sector working groups. If there are some that are not active, they must be active with immediate effect. We don't have more time now for talk. And we must just see what is it that we need to do and move forward. And that's why I was saying, depending on what we hear, where we are on the joint sector working group, we may need to schedule another DPF in the next 30 days, if that will help us move that issue forward. We also have taken almost a year also discussing the second aspect of our mandate here as DPF, which is the revising or reviewing the current portfolio of overseas development assistance. And a decision of cabinet was taken, which I have been implementing on behalf of the president, which is to review all existing development partner programs and projects and aligning them to the priorities of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and the development priorities of the Republic of Kenya. A lot of work has been done jointly between the development partners and the government of Kenya, and I think we have a very, very good report. It was presented here in the last DPF, and we said a few things need to be done. I hope they've been done now. I know there have been changes in my office. We have a new chief of staff. If that report is not here today, then we must make a decision, because we must dispose of that report in the next 30 days, even if it means holding another DPF meeting. There are certain programs and projects ongoing that are perfectly sitting very well with the aspirations, the development aspirations of the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Many of them. We need to look at them and commend our development partners so that they can know that those programs are not just programs generated for the purposes of spending ODA funds, but they are programs and projects that are responding to the priorities of the people and government of Kenya. I'll just give one example. We've just been going around the country with His Excellency the President on the program on the National Youth Opportunities Towards Transformation. That Nyota program, I remember that program was brought to Cabinet 5 times. The Minister for Youth and Sports and Creative Economy brought that paper 5 times, and each time President William Ruto asked the minister to go back, discuss with our development partner, the World Bank, to align that program with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda priorities. Today, after the fantastic work done by that ministry and the World Bank, that program is squarely sitting within what we consider to be the priorities of this administration to empower young people around the areas of creating employment, creating employability through skills development, but also encouraging a savings culture for our young people so that they don't spend whatever they have or whatever they get now, and finally creating an entrepreneurship cadre among our young people, especially those who have not been fortunate to have degrees and diplomas. So that's just one example. There are many others. And I want to encourage many development partners here today that many of the programs you're supporting us with are extremely critical. I can mention many others in the energy sector. The German government has been very supportive. By way of example, we have other projects with the EU and many other development partners that I will not mention because of time limits here. However, there are few programs and projects where money has been committed and it has not been spent, and the government of Kenya is spending, is paying commitment fees for programs which do not get actualized over a long time because of various bottlenecks. We must decide what to do with those programs. So without preempting that report, there are programs and projects we have to retire with immediate effect. Others we will renegotiate to align them with bottom-up economic transformation agenda priorities and the vision of taking Kenya to the first world economy in a generation. So some we will retire, some will renegotiate, others will realign, and so forth and so on. And that work must be done now, not tomorrow, because we've been in this for a long time. So I thought I should set that climate. Otherwise, this meeting is going to be very brief. Don't worry. I know we've taken a long time in speeches, but it was important, this being the beginning of 2026, for us to contextualize ourselves. We will finish within an hour from now, and that is the way I see it, but I'm willing to be persuaded with your input going forward. With those remarks, I now declare the 14th DPF meeting officially open. Thank you.